Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe, alongside Nick Wright, Kevin Wiles. Greg Jennings is with us on a Thursday morning. Coming up, Belichick finally answers the one question everybody has been asking. What the heck is Jadeveon Clowney thinking? That's not the question. It's a different question. And Baker is talking about how he wants to do less talking. That's where we start this morning with our rewarding performance, sponsored by Capital One Venture Card. What's in your wallet? Yeah, let's talk some Browns, guys. Just like last year, the Browns enter this season with a ton of hype and a boatload of expectations. But unlike last year, this time around, Baker Mayfield appears to have learned from last year's miserable season. He's got a different outlook heading into a pivotal year 3. Take a listen to this.
I have a different approach to this year. I think it's everybody that has been interviewed in our team has kind of, hit the nail on the head over and over about, it's just time to work. It's time to do our thing instead of talking about it. So this is the first media thing I've done just because there's no need to be talking about it. It's just time to go do it. And right now it's, kind of moving in silence, which is fine with me.
Nick, kind of like what I was saying heading into last season, right? Talk less, do more, and then you can talk all you want once you prove yourself. What do you make of what Baker had to say there?
Well, I think last season humbled him a bit. I think Baker's response would be he did quite a bit last year. Took over a team that had won one game in the previous 2 seasons, set the all-time rookie touchdown record, and so the commercials were warranted. Some of the hype was warranted. What happened to the Browns last year was twofold. They had the worst head coach in the NFL, and Baker was a turnover machine. And so, I know a lot of people want professional athletes to either be humbled or pretend to be humble, even though they have been super high achievers, 1%ers in talent and work ethic their entire lives. And Baker had, up until this past season, no reason to be humble. He was a walk-on that succeeded, then was a walk-on that won the Heisman, then became the #1 pick, then took over a moribund franchise, got them damn near to 500, and set the rookie touchdown record. So I don't begrudge Baker Mayfield the swagger that he had going into last season. I would begrudge it if he continued that swagger going into this season. After last year, he was a huge part of the problem. But he seems to understand that at this point, he's at maybe a bit of a crossroads in his career because life can come at you fast in that regard. And he doesn't need to add any additional pressure or expectations on a team that is in a critical juncture with all this young talent that can quickly become underachieving young talent if they do what they did last year again this year, Wiles.
Well, first of all, Nick, I have to congratulate you with using the term moribund franchise. Loved it. So that was excellent. That was the highlight of that answer for me. I think that, you know what they say, happiness is expectations over reality. And Greg, I thought this was interesting because Baker had basically saying there's an implicit reason that they failed is because he did too much media. So there's this, Jenna, you'll like this. In the old Seinfeld documentary, Seinfeld is introduced onto the stage as the funniest man in America, Jerry Seinfeld. He goes up on stage and he bombs, and he comes off the stage and he's furious. He's like, you can't introduce me as the greatest comedian in America. All the audience is just going to sit back and be like, yeah, we'll see. So that's kind of what Baker is saying. He's saying that the expectations were too high, there was too much talk. And I think that's funny, Greg, where you always hear about failure in football or setbacks in football being a lot of hard factors. We ran the wrong plays, we had the wrong personnel, we had the worst coach in the league. But Baker seems to be implying that it was the hard factors, but it was also these soft factors. So I was surprised to hear him admit that the outside noise actually affected his play.
Well, to what you just said, I would bounce back and say that I don't think he meant that the expectations were too high. I don't think anyone on that team would have ever said or would ever admit to the expectations being too high. But what he's saying is that there's times where he could have just been quiet along with some of his teammates, and it starts with him. And what that looks like isn't the commercials, isn't so much not doing media. It's just being smart in managing your words, thinking through what you're going to say and understanding what you say is going to literally have a direct impact on more than just yourself. So I think that's the approach. And I think, fortunately for Baker as well as the Cleveland Browns and all of his teammates, this pandemic has suited them very well. It's kept them behind out from in front of the cameras, I should say, and able to just work, because that's what everyone is doing. They're just working. And I think this is what a team that is so young needs. Just show me your work. Show me versus telling me. Your actions will speak a lot louder than your words. And I love his approach right now.
Yeah, so listen, I know I'm going to be a man on an island on this, and that's fine. I think Baker's just saying what he knows the media wants to hear. I think Baker knows there was a narrative that for some reason doing a 12-hour commercial shoot with an insurance company in the middle of July was the reason he threw 1 million interceptions. So he's like, fine, I'll just say it. You guys want me to say it, so I'll say it. And then people will say it's a new Baker Mayfield. There was one time last year when Baker had comments that I think could have legitimately had a negative effect on his team's ability to win. And that was when he was blaming the refs after one game or two games, saying the refs are always going to be against us, instead of looking towards his own performance. The refs didn't make him fumble the football. The refs didn't make him throw interceptions. But aside from that, you know who was in as many commercials as Baker Mayfield last year? That guy. He was all over television. Nobody gave a damn because they won the Super Bowl. And so, like, this idea that it was Baker's beef with Tony Grossi, the local media guy, and the fact that he spent a couple days shooting ads is why the Browns stunk. It just, maybe it's that. Or maybe we should go to Occam's razor. The most obvious answer is probably the right one. Maybe it was because their coach stunk, their quarterback couldn't stop turning the ball over, and the most talented player on their team bonked somebody on the head with a helmet and got kicked out of the league for the rest of the year. Maybe it's that, or maybe it was his commercial load and his press conferences. I'm going to go with the former over the latter.
All right, well, no matter what Baker says at this point, guys, and he clearly doesn't want to be saying a lot, the team knows, fans know, this is a pivotal year for him. He had great first year to warrant the top overall pick. Subpar second year, we talked about it, highlighted by those 21 interceptions. And so now heading into year 3, even Baker can't doubt how important this season is for his future in Cleveland. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, there's no doubt year 3 is always a big year in these contracts, and timing wise, everybody knows that. But I'm not going to put any added pressure on myself. There's no need for that, because if I win, good things will happen. Good things will happen for our team and the guys around me. If I play better, our team's going to do better. So I put that pressure on myself, and so it doesn't matter what year it is. I have to play better each year.
Yeah, Nick, the Browns go as Baker goes. Everyone seems to know that. What do you make of what he had to say?
Well, listen, the year 3 for first-round pick, when after this year they decide if they're going to pick up your 5th-year option, and the GM who drafted you is gone, you're going to be on your 4th different head coach, damn straight it's a big year. Like, Baker Mayfield, after that great rookie season, could be a guy who you wonder if he's going to even get a second contract with the Browns if this year doesn't go well. So I understand the idea that every year is a critical year, but it's a different type of pressure if you're under a brand new contract, or if this is the year that will determine potentially if you get a brand new contract, and if all your rabbis have left the building, so to speak. So that I totally agree with. This is, with Dorsey gone, and obviously Hugh Jackson, and then Todd Haley, and then Freddie Kitchens all gone. There's no one in management that is tied to Baker Mayfield. There's no one in management that if he fails, they failed, because he wasn't their guy. So I totally agree with that, 1,000% Wild.
Yeah, when you look at the first-round quarterbacks, Nick, there was 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and there's a direct connection to how stable their environment was and how well they're doing. If we could show the graphic, Baker's on his 4th head coach, like you mentioned, right? Hugh, Greg, Freddie Kitchens, and now Kevin Stefanski. Sam Darnold's had Todd Bowles and Adam Gase. Josh Allen's doing great. Guess what? He's had Sean McDermott the whole time. Josh Rosen, who knows what's going on? He had two coaches in Arizona. Now he's at Brian Flores. He's probably going to have another coach in a little while here. And Lamar Jackson's just had one. So this is not Baker's fault. But, Nick, you're right. There's so much turnover. The guy's all by himself, Greg. I think this is a pivotal year for him to prove that he can succeed no matter what environment he's in.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, that last statement. Regardless of the environment now, it's on Baker. And I think this is what year 3 is all about. The first year, you get a pass because you are a rookie. The second year, it's the quarterback slump, the second year slump, the sophomore slump, all of those things. So you kind of get a pass because now teams have prepared for you. They've seen your tape, what you put out there, and they can prepare accordingly. The third year, for any player, let alone a quarterback, it's now on you. I don't care how many coaching changes. We are going to see who you are because you've shown us now what your trends of consistency is. It's either you're going to trend up or you're trending down. There is no middle ground because in middle ground, you get replaced. And so Baker understands this. It's no longer about who he doesn't have as far as a play caller, who he doesn't have as far as skilled guys. He's had now Jarvis Landry for a couple years. He's going to have now Odell Beckham for a couple years. He's going to get back his tight end and Njoku. So he has pieces. It's about him and his play. He understands that. And I think he's going to be tremendous this year.
And right off the bat, at least he appears to be doing it the right way. Prove it before you come out and say it. We'll see. Take a break. Back here at Greg Jennings, we're drawing a blank, talking some Cowboys. Now, guess who is not worried about the Cowboys getting a deal done with Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott's head coach. Mike McCarthy, in his first year in Dallas, doesn't seem too worried, saying he's got full confidence Dak will be ready to go. So, Nick, McCarthy's impact on Dak this season will be blank.
To me, championship determining. Listen, the Cowboys have a championship caliber roster 2 through 53. I don't think anyone doubts that. Last year, the question was their coach holding them back? Was their quarterback against great opponents or even good opponents holding them back? Was the combination of the two? I think the biggest Dak critics would say he's around the 12th or 13th best quarterback in football. The biggest Dak fans probably have him 7th or 8th. If Mike McCarthy can get him firmly into that top 5-6 quarterback play, there's no reason the Cowboys can't go to and win a Super Bowl, along with McCarthy cleaning up some of the close game stuff Jason Garrett struggled with. So, to me, the big change the Cowboys made was not drafting CeeDee Lamb or adding Gerald McCoy. It was switching out Jason Garrett for Mike McCarthy. So to me, Greg, it's all on your former coach to determine the trajectory of this team if they're going to take that next step. So I say it's championship determining.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be colossal. And by colossal, what I mean is this is going to be the year that makes or break not only Dak Prescott, but the Dallas Cowboys and what we expect of them. One thing about Mike McCarthy, he has this ability to empower his players. I remember in my year 4 when I was coming in and I was talking about the wide receiver room being Donald Driver's room and just always wanting to say and do the right things. And he set me down in his office and he empowered me. He said, that is your room. Those are your guys. Take ownership. And from not only him saying it, but the way he called the plays, getting me the ball, putting me in positions to be successful, to do what I do, and to put me in positions to help our team win, that's what allowed me to blossom into the player that I was able to become. That's what he's going to provide for Dak Prescott. And we will not only see him being a special player, but we will then see that translate into wins for the Dallas Cowboys.
Greg, that's a fantastic answer. I feel like I got smarter listening to it, and I'm also personally happy because it backs up my silly answer. I wrote solid. I just love this quote. What part of the quote was, he said, there has been communication. Dak is in a business situation. I have to respect that. And to me, who has never been in the wide receiver room in Green Bay, it reminds, but I have been to an airport early in the morning. It reminded me of like when you see the pilot at Starbucks and you're in your pajamas and you're all disheveled and the pilot just comes in and is like, good morning, sir. I'm like, oh, this guy's got it all under control. This guy's instilling confidence in me. So that's how I feel. Greg, you may have been in the Green Bay, but I was in the Starbucks with an anonymous pilot. So we're, 2 peas in a pod there.
I love you, Wilds. On to Steelers Provo running back James Conner, who has clearly been using quarantine to focus on his latissimus dorsi, the largest muscle in the upper body. Clearly. Conner looking to carry the Steelers on his back this season. Literally. Nick, James Conner's new offseason look, man, is blank.
I've said, for me, it's irrationally irritating. And it's not because I'm jealous of James Conner. Listen, I'm not wired to even want to attempt to look anything like that. It's irrationally irritating because I don't believe that photograph to be real. There has to be some distortion or Photoshop or tweaking of the picture. No one, I don't care how jacked you are, your upper body is not the shape of a king cobra's head. Like that's not a thing. And I was zoomed in on the picture. I tried to see if the lady in the background, if her face was distorted so I could prove it. I didn't quite have the technological capabilities to do it, but it really irritated me. I don't believe it to be real. I don't even know if it would help you unless you're trying to be the late Craig Ironhead Hayward style fullback instead of running back, Greg. But I'm irritated by it at an irrational level, Greg.
Wow. Well, I will say this. It is definitely something that is real. It's called a V-taper, and he is definitely showcasing his V-taper there. The one thing about this picture is, like, he's going to look obviously swoller and a lot fuller because he's in the gym. It's after a pump. But that's a lot of work to put in. To get your back to look like that, he's putting in a lot of work. He's competition ready. And in my world, what I'm pursuing, I love it. Get ready, James Conner, you competition ready, baby.
Nick, I kind of am with you. I'm just lost at what's. There we go. I didn't know that one was coming.
See, Greg's back looks like a realistic back of someone who's been working out for a while. Connor's back looks like someone who spread the top of the picture.
Greg, why do you want your running back looking like Saquon Barkley? What is he going to do with that V-back up there? Don't you want you to have all that mass in your lower body? Plow through, give yourself stability and power?
I'm sure he's working on his lower body, but one thing about James Conner, he understands as a Steelers running back, he has to be willing and ready to put the team on his back, though.
That's a great one. That's a great Greg Jennings callback.
You got it.
So go ahead,
Awesome,
Wilds.
Greg.
I interrupted you. You didn't get to give your answer. Sorry, Wilds.
No, it's fine. I just don't know what's going on with the Steelers. You've got James Conner with his V-taper. We got Big Ben shaving. It's like, look, I shaved, everybody. I think I'm losing a little bit of weight. And then, of course, we've got James Harrison, who is weekly doing the most crazy workouts we've ever seen. So it feels like a real boom or bust time in Pittsburgh. You either look, doing crazy workouts, or you're just kind of, looking like Big Ben. Oh, see, here we go. More resistance bands, Greg.
Look at that.
I mean, enough with the resistance bands.
That's a lot of stability activation.
Greg, by the way, you look fantastic. You look good. All right, let's move on to Bill Belichick, who's been patrolling the Patriots sidelines in a sleeveless hoodie for the better part of the last 15 seasons. If you thought he was trying to trend set, think again. Belichick said he cuts the sleeves because his arms are too short. Well, when a Patriots staffer offered to get him longer sleeves, he said it was just easier to get all his sweatshirts, find a pair of scissors, cut that thick material himself. Time management, Bill. Nick, Belichick's sleeveless hoodie look is blank.
Jordan-esque. And by that, I mean an obvious lie that we all know is a lie, and we're going to act like it's a real take. Like, this is Belichick's version of, I didn't care if Isaiah Thomas was on the dream team. That had nothing to do with me. Oh, really, Bill? Your reasoning for dressing like a homeless man is because your arms are too short? No, it's because it's part of your aesthetic. It's because it's part of what you're trying to promote to the world. You can't even be bothered to care about your personal appearance because you're so focused on football. And by the way, his arms are too short. Is he also going to tell us his head is too large? Because he cuts the neck too. It's an obvious lie, which of course Greg makes it Jordan-esque.
That was good. but it's vintage. It's gonna go down in history as one of the most iconic looks, most memorable looks. If you think about head coaches in the past, the Tom Landrys, the Vince Lombardis, they have this iconic look with the hat, the long coat. It may not be a good look to you, to us, but for him and for us remembering how coaches appeared on the sideline, we will never forget this cutoff hoodie.
All right, I've got two things to say after Nick's blasphemous rant. The first one is that it's actually a slight disadvantage. If we could show the quote panel here, it's from Darren Hartwell. I've got a triple shout out here. Darren Hartwell on NBC Sports. And then he shouts out Patriots.com, Mike Dussault, and Pat's Propaganda, Bob Yoon. Belichick has a worse record with the cutoff. Record in games coached in cutoff sleeves, 73% wins. Record in games coached short sleeves, 74.8%. And Nick, just to your point, and I know you've got your one championship, and Greg, we talk about stability activation. Belichick needs those short arms because when he's showing off his rings, he's got 6 rings with the Patriots, then he's got 2 with the Giants. It compacts his joints, so his arms actually shrink because he's won so much, Nick.
Yeah, it makes a point. Nick, he makes a point.
It's fine.
All right, let's talk about Belichick's former quarterback, Tom Brady, who's selling his heavily modified Cadillac Escalade SUV for a cool $300,000. You know, if it wasn't for gas mileage, I would totally take you up on your offer, Nick, to share the car. 1 week yours, 1 week mine, like we did last summer with that Mini Cooper. But Nick, this had us thinking. The custom, it was fun. It was cute. There's our whole family's packed in. The custom license plates. Let's talk about that. The custom license plates on Brady's Escalade should be blank.
7 rings, not 6 rings. I'm gonna quote a very, very wise man named LeVar Ball. Speak it into existence, Tommy. 7 rings. Nobody wants to know about what you have done. How about what you will do? So I think whatever the car is, it should say 7 rings because that's what he's shooting for in Tampa, Greg.
It should say, and I wrote it down.
Oh, nice.
GOAT B. And that's because he's such a modest guy. He doesn't like the attention. Everyone would read GOAT, but it's go A to B, period. That's going to get him A to B, but it's GOAT B. We know he's the GOAT. He knows he's the GOAT. Put them together. That's what you got.
Okay.
Okay. If you carry the one, you got to carry the one, I think. Okay.
Yeah, I think you got to go more right down the middle. I bet it would be 199. He names everything after 199. He's still upset about the draft, even though he's got, 6 rings now. But I also think he should take a page out of Michael Jordan's book, who is the world's biggest fan of vanity plates. I like how MJ just goes straight down the middle. Hey, is that Michael Jordan's Ferrari? I don't know. Yeah, probably is. M Air J. There we go. The guy had so many. Oh, that's the same one. Another Ferrari. He also had Air. He had, I think, 2 Trey on a Range Rover. He's got another Corvette. He's got one that just simply says Mike. So got to go right down the middle. So another option is just like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's car. He's selling it, so I don't know if he gets the license plate.
I like it. Nobody was stressed out that his tires looked deflated on that Escalade that he's selling for $300,000. That would stress my dad out, obviously.
22-inch rims.
Take a break. Coming up, guys.
Low profiles.
Oh, is that what it is? The rims, but then you can't go off-roading. Would it be a complete failure if the Lakers didn't win a title this offseason? One Laker thinks so.
Brady would never deflate anything to improve performance, though.
Thank you for getting that. It took long enough, Nick.
Pretty good, Nick.
I set you up.
I'll give you credit on that one.
Back here, first things first, with Chris Broussard. Broussard, we got a bevy of NBA topics to discuss, so we're going to run a little fast break. Make sure we get them all in. First up, Alex Caruso saying this season would be a failure if the Lakers don't win a title. And check this out. Jared Dudley and a couple of his Laker teammates back in the gym already. There it is. Nick, you agree with Caruso?
Yeah, I agree with Caruso. They're the best team. They've got the best player. Right before the world shut down, they beat the Bucks and the Clippers resoundingly. So, yeah, of course it would be a failure. Now, I might amend that slightly. if the NBA, as Wildes and Broussard wants them to, change the playoff format to where in the first round, Caruso has to sit on Anthony Davis's shoulders and go up against Zubac and Patrick Beverly in some weird 2-on-2 competition, whatever wacky nonsense you guys are trying to do to bastardize my NBA season. But assuming we get an actual playoffs, then yeah, Wildes, it's a failure if the best team with the best player doesn't win the title.
I'm adding that to the list of playoff options. Look, it's not a failure. And Nick, you talked about it with Baker Mayfield earlier in the show. This is lip service 101. This is exactly what you're supposed to say. Oh, if we don't win, it's a failure. The whole season would be lost. This is just what the media wants to hear. And look, it's not a failure for Caruso. The guy averages 5, 2, and 2, and he's one of the most popular players in the NBA, and he's getting an obscene amount of all-star votes. So it's certainly personally a win for him if it's a failure for the Lakers, Broussard.
It is absolutely a failure if they don't win the championship. You got the best player in the world, as Nick said, and when your best player is in his 17th season, there is no guarantee he's going to stay at this level next year. So there's no moral victories. They should be looking championship or bust. They got another top 5 or 6 player in Anthony Davis. And look, by the way, the Clippers should feel the same way. The Bucks should feel the same way. And I'd even say the Raptors should feel the same way. This is about winning championships, not about more. Yes, they're the defending champs. Rings, baby, rings.
Tell us how you really feel, Broussard. Sticking with the Lakers, if you ask Dame Lillard who the MVP is this season, he's taking LeBron over Giannis, with Dame saying for LeBron to, quote, be at the age he's at the level he's performing at, I think he's the MVP. Nick, I assume Dame is the smartest man alive today, in your opinion?
No, Dame's wrong. Listen, Wildes, real quick. What is my #1 North Star guiding light in life and on this show? My commitment to what, Wildes?
Oh, I know.
Take integrity.
I know. Oh,
exactly right. And right, Jenna, you would have gotten it as well. My apologies. And right before the season shut down, I showed America this graphic, which showed the MVP almost like a polling situation, and that LeBron was gaining ground. It had become a 2-man race with Chris Paul being like, can I get a few votes? That had been the MVP race month by month over the course of the year. Well, the season shut down 2 days after I released the latest polling results. I can't have LeBron jumping while we've all been in quarantine. It wouldn't be right. And I don't agree with this idea that LeBron should be graded on a curve because he's in year 17. That's not how this works. Who had the best season this year? It is clearly a 2-man race, and nobody else should get a single first place vote other than Giannis and LeBron. But Giannis was still slightly ahead, and the season shutting down, I think, undercut LeBron's ability to catch him. So I think Dame is wrong, Kevin Wildes.
Yeah, Broussard, I'm torn on this because I thought it was super interesting that Dame said, yeah, well, if you look at how old LeBron is, how many miles he has on him, he deserves MVP. I think it opens up a Pandora's box if Karl Malone comes back to the league and averages 8 points. Like, wow, look how old Karl Malone is. He's averaging 8 points. He's the MVP. But I think it is interesting that I'm like, oh, I guess I should weigh that in my imaginary MVP vote, Broussard.
No, you shouldn't. I'm feeling strange because I'm agreeing with Nick Wright a lot on this show today. But no, I've been a voter. I'm an official voter. I've been so for 20-some-odd years. Oh, God, you don't grade on the curve. Bad. LeBron's age has absolutely nothing to do with this. He's playing tremendously. And one thing I disagree with, Nick, it's not even that close. As great as LeBron's playing, Giannis averages more points, more rebounds, has a higher PER, arguably the best defensive player in the league. His team has a better record, and he doesn't have a second superstar like LeBron does in Anthony Davis. By the way, while LeBron is clearly the Lakers' MVP, his second star leads the team in everything except assists. So, no, Dame, I guess being nice, but no, it's Giannis.
All right, moving on. Let's transition to the Houston Rockets now. GM and friend of the show, Daryl Morey, sees a huge advantage for Houston if the NBA does, in fact, adapt to the 1-16 conference-less playoff format. Why would he say that? Check this out. So here's what the Rockets' path would look like in traditional seeding, assuming all the other top seeds advance: Nuggets, Clippers, Lakers, Bucks. And on the right, you can see the Rockets' opponents in a conference-free system: Jazz, Lakers, Raptors, Bucks. Nick, you agree with your guy Daryl?
Oh yeah, Daryl's absolutely right on this. That the Rockets would become one of the major winners if you did, conference-free format, the 1 through 16. Because either way, you've got to get through the two best teams in basketball, the Lakers or the Bucks. So the question is, would you rather play the Nuggets or the Jazz? Certainly, now that Bogdanovich is done for the year, you absolutely would rather play the Jazz. And then there's a question of, would you rather play the Clippers or the Raptors? I think that's actually relatively close, but I understand why he would go with the Raptors over the Clippers, because the Raptors don't have someone that you feel like they don't have two people to deal with Westbrook and Harden the way the Clippers might. And so, yeah, the Rockets would be huge winners if you went conference-free format. Now, the flip side is, under the traditional format, Wilds, the Rockets would get to the conference finals. They would then lose, though. Under the conference-free format, they would lose in the second round. I think they could beat the Clippers, so I think they have a better chance to win the title in the conference-free format, but I think they're also more likely to be knocked out early in the conference-free format, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll throw a curveball at you, Nick. The Rockets split the series with the Lakers. But Broussard, how would they do against Kevin Durant and Kyrie there instead of the Lakers? If LeBron's sitting at home and here comes Kevin Durant and see, here he goes. If Kevin Durant and Kyrie comes back, it's been 400 days of Kevin Durant rehabbing and tweeting and getting excited for the season, Broussard. Just putting it out there, speaking into existence.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't even fathom what Brooklyn's going to look like with Durant and Kyrie. I mean, it'll be great. We see what kind of shape they're in. But look, I'm calling hogwash on Daryl Morey and Nick Wright. What are you talking about? Nick, you just jumped the Lakers. They would meet the Raptors or the Clippers, so they better chance against them. What? They're going out in the second round no matter what, okay? It doesn't matter. They're going out in the second round. Enough of this love story with the small ball. I will grant you this. They have a slightly better chance of upsetting the Lakers than they do the Clippers, because the Clippers are more equipped to match them in small ball. But they're going to get beat by either LA team. They're going home in the second round, regardless of the format. Stop it.
Broussard, you must have been, I don't know, traveling or doing something, doing one of your amazing speaking engagements when I saw the Clippers play the Rockets and Kawhi Leonard, the best perimeter defender since Scottie Pippen, I've been told, hidden out in the corner on PJ Tucker while James Harden was giving him that work. Like maybe somebody send Broussard the tape of that game, because maybe he needs to brush up on it in case we do get to see this matchup in the postseason. That was good. That was good. I never see you do something like that. The scary Rockets. That was funny. That was good,
like
Broussard.
it.
But somebody seriously, send me the DVD.
Moving on. Speaking of the playoffs, Blazers Dame Lillard pushing for a proposed play-in tournament format. Obviously, Dame's Blazers currently on the outside looking in and would need this format to compete in the postseason, so duh. Nick, where does this playoff format rank amongst all the ideas that we've been throwing around?
It's like most of them. It's idiotic and unnecessary. Here's a fun fact. You know how many teams in the NBA this year are above 500? 13. This is not a year you need to make the pool larger. If anything, you could argue make it smaller. And hey, Portland, you have had 62 games from CJ McCollum, 58 games from Damian Lillard this year. Those two guys have played together in nearly 90% of your games. And you're 8 games below 500. Cry me a river. Everyone's like, oh, it's not fair to them. You know what would be great for Portland? If over the first 66 games you were decent. All you had to do was be 500. You'd be in the playoffs. Oh, what about the poor Pelicans? Here's an idea of Pelicans. If you want to make the playoffs, don't start the year 6-22. Oh, the Kings. Here's an idea, Sacramento. You want to make the playoffs? Don't hire Luke Walton. Like, none of these teams deserve any of our sympathy.
Walton gets a shot.
So, like, give me a break with this idea. We need to make the pool bigger. We wouldn't even be rewarding mediocrity. We'd be rewarding teams that have lost 3 out of 5 games they've played all year long. It's asinine, Wilds.
Okay, whoa, geez. First of all, this is the play-in tournament is something that's been kicked around. It's eventually going to happen. It's a mid-season tournament or a late-season tournament's going to happen, just like soccer. So Silver's loved this, and he's just saying, like, should we try this right now, or is it really not safe to bring in that many teams? Broussard, the other thing that I don't think is fair, and when Dame Lillard is talking about the fairness of the play-in tournament, it's a little bit like boxing. When you're losing in boxing, and you spit your mouthpiece out like, stop it, go back to your corner and rest, which is basically what the Blazers have done now that Nurkic and Collins, Dame says, are 100% coming back. So you show up in this play-in tournament, it's like, this wasn't even the team you had at the end of the season. This is not fair at all under the guise of fairness to Dame Lillard.
Look, guys, Dame Dollar is right on the money. Get that? Dame Dollar right on the money. But no, I like it. Look, this is unused. This is an unusual and unprecedented situation, right? We've never had a pandemic in the last 100 years. So it calls for unusual and unprecedented circumstances in the NBA. It'd be one thing if they were giving all 30 teams or, the bottom 14 a chance to play in the playoffs. But they're not. They're only giving the teams that we think that have a shot at making the playoffs mathematically. And Damian's right. With Nurkic and Zach Collins coming back, they would be a different, much better team. I also think it's good for the fans, Nick, because we might get a Zion or a Dame Lillard, who are very popular players, in the playoffs. So it adds more excitement.
Or we might get John Morant, who's earned it. Or John Morant, who took a Grizzlies team that everyone thought was going to have a top 5 pick that goes to Boston, that Ja could actually be rewarded for what he did. Listen, I love CJ. I like Dame a lot. Here's an idea of Portland. Maybe in the last week we had of the season, don't lose to Phoenix and Atlanta. That might help you. Maybe it help your case a little bit if you don't lose to those horrible teams and then be like, it's not fair to us. You're 29-37. Give me a break. It's not a 48-win team that's going to be outside looking in. Sacramento, New Orleans, San Antonio, and Portland have all stunk this year. Sorry, Memphis earned it. No, everyone's killing the Grizzlies. It's not right. It's just not right.
I'll say it for you, Nick. Miss me with that. Hey, I'm just happy they haven't come up with a final playoff format yet, because if they did, we wouldn't have these tremendous conversations on First Things First. Take a break. Coming up, which 3-time Pro Bowler is refusing to play with Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns? That's next on First Things First. Free agent defensive end Jadeveon Clowney has reportedly turned down the biggest offer on the table from the Cleveland Browns. Thanks, but no thanks, apparently. Nick, what does this say about the Browns?
Well, I don't really know what it says about the Browns. It says my guy Jadeveon is really choosy about where he wants to play football. Last year, the Texans tried to trade him to Miami. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm not going. Not doing it. Dude, trade me somewhere else. Don't want to do it. So they trade him to Seattle. And now the Browns. So I would have said, well, he doesn't want to play in cold weather Cleveland. But he didn't want to play in warm weather Miami. Maybe now that the Dolphins have Tua, they showed some real heart last year. They won 5 of their last 9 games, and they had showed interest in him last year. He's hoping that they would still want him. Maybe he's hoping that the Browns are going to up the ante. I don't totally understand what's happening here with Clowney, who one would imagine would be a little concerned that the music's going to stop and he's not going to have a chair, but instead he's out here turning down huge money deals. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little vexed by this story, Wilds.
A little vexed. I'm a little bit confused by what the Browns are doing. The Browns have $37 million in cap space. It's like supermarket sweep. They're like, hey, we need to spend this, guys. We've got some time. They've got the most in the NFL. So, Greg, I think there's going to be some more big additions heading into Cleveland if they want to play there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what Jadeveon Clowney is doing. I'm not sure what it is, but he obviously, as Nick, you alluded to, he has specific destinations that he wants to go, and Cleveland is not on that list. And so I'll be interested to see who steps up to offer even as much as what Cleveland did, bearing the lack of access they have to players. But Jadeveon Clowney, you hit it right on the head. His time is kind of running short. He's going to have to make a decision soon.
All right, moving on to the 4th and 15 onside kick alternative. The NFL's made some changes to the proposal, with teams only being allowed to utilize the 4th and 15 in regulation, and with it being an untimed play. You know, when we brought this up in the morning meeting, Nick, you brought up a really good point. What do you think about these changes?
Yeah, so yesterday on the show, and I don't want to seem like a guy who can never be happy about things, because yesterday on the show I suggested specifically that if the team who is ahead attempts this, it should be an untimed down. The NFL then announced the whole thing's going to be an untimed down, and there's a little bit of a Goldilocks situation. This one's too hot, this one's too cold. Where's the one that's just right? It absolutely should not be an untimed down if it's the team that's trailing. It's not only an untimed down, the clock will not start until the next play. And so you could have a situation where you're down 10 points with 12 seconds left and really be fine, where you score a touchdown, now there's 9 seconds left. You have no timeouts. You have an untimed play. You can use the entirety of the field so the defense can't just guard the sidelines. You complete a 35-yard play. If your receiver get down, you can kick a field goal, but the clock stops. So I think it should be regular clock if the team is trailing when they do it, untimed down if the team is ahead when they do it, to avoid some chicanery. To me, this is obvious, and I hope the NFL makes another tweak to it, Wilds.
I hate to be the NFL and be like, oh boy, Nick Wright is right again. We've got to tweak this again. This is when we were initially worried about it, that they would just, offensive team would just burn time, head to the back of the end zone and just hang out. Jason McCourty, who has won a lot of games, Greg, hates this rule because he says it is rewarding teams from being behind. He doesn't like it at all. I assume as an offensive player, you like this idea.
I do like this idea, and I like the concept that Nick has. That was my number one concern. It should be a time down for the team that's trailing because of what we just saw. But for the game of sport, for the fans, it creates this interest, this intrigue of let me stay to the very waning moments of the game because anything can still happen. My offense will still have a shot. So this is why I like it, and I think the league should go through with it.
All right, let's talk about our friends over at Fox Bet. They have Bill Belichick as the favorite to win Coach of the Year, and behind him, Mike McCarthy and Bruce Arians tied for second. Greg, back to you. You surprised Belichick is favored to win Coach of the Year with the team he's got this year?
Absolutely not. This is who he is. This is what he does. He does his job, and he does it better than anyone we've ever seen do it. And so just because he loses Tom Brady, no slight to Tom Brady because he is an all-time great player, one of the greatest to ever play, specifically at that position. But he is of the mindset that it doesn't matter who I have on my roster. If I have guys that are healthy and they can play, they're going to fit my scheme. I'm going to put the best 22 guys on the field, and we will have a chance every single week.
Nick, this is insane. And I'll take a page out of your book, although I'll talk about Jordan too. We know he's the Coach of the Year every year. We know it. It's just kind of like LeBron's MVP every year, and Jordan should be MVP every year. No, Karl Malone should not be getting the MVP. Charles Barkley did a great year, but you know he wasn't the best player. Belichick is the Coach of the Year every year, and everybody knows it. People get bored and vote another way, but we know he's the Coach of the Year every year, Nick.
So I think that is like the Popovich in the NBA. We know that he's the best coach who's going to win the award. Belichick is traditionally been in a tough spot to win this award because it usually goes to whichever coach had his team overachieve the most, which means Fox bettors out there, Matt Nagy. I don't know if you've heard, but I've got the Bears going 12-4, America. If they come anywhere close to that, he's winning Coach of the Year. So that's where my money would be on. I think Arians would be a bad bet because if the Bucs are great, Brady's going to get all the credit. I also think there is maybe a small window for John Gruden if the Raiders make the playoffs, but I think that Matt Nagy is where I would put my money, Jenna Wolfe.
All right, moving on to some golf. Since last week's match, just about everyone has an idea for the next great foursome, including the guy who starred in last week's great foursome, Phil Mickelson. So Phil threw out some awesome names like Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, Patrick Mahomes, Larry David.
Oh, boy.
Greg, who do you want to see?
I like what Phil Mickelson said with the Steph Curry and Michael Jordan and Pat Mahomes and these guys, because they're current athletes versus and older athletes that we know were great and know who love the game of golf and can actually play and be entertaining, and they would talk. We know Michael Jordan would give us everything that we want to hear, and I think that's the element that would pull the fans in. Viewerships would go up. The talking piece, which is typically never done in golf, it would be allowed, and we would draw interest in that.
Jenna, could you imagine the Monday morning after Michael Jordan beats Patrick Mahomes, what we would have to deal with Nick Wright stumbling into the office? It would be Armageddon.
Listen, we don't know what the matchup should be. We might have to wait 10, 11 months for it. But Steph Curry and former President Barack Obama, they're buddies. Your guy Tom Brady and current President Donald Trump, they're buddies. There's some actual dislike between the two. That would be, oh, you shake your head. That's a ratings bonanza, Wilds. That is an absolute must-see television. Brady and Trump, Curry and Obama, set it up. I'll pay to watch it.
All right, let's end with some football. Check out AB.
Oh,
Someone say he's
Brady
having
buddy.
a bit of an identity crisis. Yeah, he's got Steelers pants on with a Raiders helmet. He's also probably having a football identity crisis, just out there catching routes. Nick, what do you think?
Is that the Raiders
helmet?
That was really a Steelers helmet that he painted to try to sneak onto the field?
Yeah.
I want an investigation into that helmet.
We gotta go, America. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone.